Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. I am out in the garden this morning. I've got myself a cup of coffee and we are going to do a little walk around the garden, and I'm going to share with you what the garden is looking like at the start of November. If you're new here, my name is Robyn and I live here on the south coast of New South Wales, Australia, with my partner and our 2 cats. We run a backyard flower farm here where we sell flowers to the public, both at markets and special orders as well. We've created so many gardens here on this property using techniques that primarily use minimal disturbance to the soil, such as no-dig methods, hugelkultur methods, or using organic principles. So make sure to grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee for this video, and I hope you enjoy this garden tour. So I am trialing out a new microphone system for this video, so I'm just learning how to use it. So if the sound is a little different, that is why, but I thought it would be easier rather than having a larger microphone on the camera. I can move around a little bit more and talk. I am currently standing in my cottage garden here. This is directly next to the house and has a lot of plants like herbs and greens that we use regularly, so that I don't have to come down or do a long walk from the kitchen all the way down to the garden to grab whatever I need for dinner. This was all grass when we moved in, and we laid cardboard down and created no-dig beds here. So you will see a little bit of grass kind of creeping in throughout the pathways and in some of the beds. But that's just honestly what you get with no-dig gardens a lot of the time, and when you are growing an organic garden. This garden is really my happy place. I love coming down here and just pottering around in the garden, doing little jobs here and there. I have some beautiful plants that today maybe wasn't the best day to do a video in hindsight, just because we've had a lot of rain lately. Which obviously doesn't make the flowers look in their prime, but I will include some overlays of what these flowers and plants look like when they're not drenched in water, because the roses right now aren't particularly looking in their prime. So I'll grab the camera now and take you on a little bit of a tour of this garden and share just a little bit closer some of the plants that I have planted in here and my plans for this space behind me. So we're definitely in a transition period with this garden. I have recently, you would have seen in another video, done a really big tidy up of the garden where I cleared out a lot of the old plants and foliage. It was just really messy, and I've neatened it up a little bit, but we are just preparing all of this area to be planting tomatoes and some other summer veg in here, as well as some greens. So you can see there are kind of 4 quarters to this garden, with a central pathway that kind of curves around with your eye kind of meeting towards that hydrangea down the back. I try to use design principles to catch your eye towards different features for this cottage garden, but have it a little bit more wild and free as you move through, hence why I have more curved pathways rather than a really straight one down the middle, so that it kind of has a little bit more of a secret garden feel and a little bit more whimsical vibes, which is definitely what I enjoy. But over in this quarter here, we have some of the lamb's ear, which has really done really well for us. It's starting to send up its spikes at the moment. Lamb's ear looks absolutely beautiful after it rains, and I really love this plant, but I probably do need to trim it back a little bit as it encroaches that rose over there. But lamb's ear is really great for floral arrangements. It lasts a long time in water, and it has such a beautiful colour to it. I have lots of California poppies. This one here, they're all closed up for the rain right now, but I'll include some clips of what they do look like. My chives, it's another job that I really need to do. These are garlic chives. I need to just cut back the flower heads. I've got some oregano here, which is such a great plant, which has a sprawling habit and has just filled in that little corner really nice and neatly, and we really enjoy using oregano. I've also got some leftover sweet williams along the pathway here. I do have a central pathway here, and every time I harvest flowers and make bouquets, I just dump the trimmings of them here, all of the stems that I don't use, so that I've kind of created like a natural mulch pathway here, and can kind of just tackle the weeds for me. We've also got some herbs over here, like some rosemary, parsley that is going to seed, but I actually also use this in floral arrangements. The discs of the seed heads look really pretty and add that kind of light, airy texture to an arrangement. We've also got some thyme, some curly leaf parsley, a really sad looking rose. I need to come and deadhead it. You can see just all of the flowers are spent and they need to just be pulled off so that we can get some more blooms. This is called Jubilee Celebration, this rose. And then we have a few leeks around the garden. We've got one patch here and one patch over there as well. This is a little bit of empty space as we come back through this garden. I've got some catnip because we have cats and they really enjoy this, and a pincushion flower that has really gone over and needs to be taken out. So that was that patch in there. Moving over to this garden, I've got another patch of lambs here, which I'll be harvesting really soon. My spinach has bolted and gone to seed, and again, I also really enjoy using this in arrangements. I actually saw from Serena from You Can't Eat the Grass, she used silver beet that had gone to seed in her arrangements. Looks really funky and it holds up really well in water, so it's a reminder, if you do have veggies in the garden and you're a flower farmer, maybe let them go and see what they look like, because this certainly paid off. I have actually harvested the other ones that had gone to seed, and we've also been eating this silver beet so much in lots of different dinners. I have another rose back here. This is Litchfield Angel that I've just tidied up a little bit. Again, needs a dead head, but we'll get on to that. The chamomile has kind of flopped over from the rain, but we have been harvesting that and drying the flowers for teas. I've got some turnips in here that are ready to harvest. I've planted these way too close together, but they are very ready to get out of the ground, as you can see. So I'll probably take these out and add them to a roast dinner, I think. And then I've got a little patch of dill in here, and some self-seeded calendula that's coming up everywhere. Moving down here in these little plastic protector cages, we have some of our tomatoes, as you can see in there. So we have 4 black cherry tomatoes planted in this area, and this is Scott's garden. He is dealing with the cherry tomatoes this year, so he's growing all of those and have planted them. The seeds were from the Whitbird Environmental Seed Subscription Pack, which I will have all the details of that in the description box. But yeah, I was really happy to have some black cherry tomatoes in that seed subscription pack because I really enjoy them. And to finish off, we've got a lavender plant and a coastal rosemary, or Westringia, which is native to the area. And this is just one of my favorite plants. It hedges up really nice, and I'm just going to let this grow a little bit more just to kind of have a little bit more privacy for this corner of the garden for the neighbours next door. But yeah, I also enjoy using this in arrangements too. Moving over from that garden, we have my little fairy garden patch, I like to call it. Firstly, we've got some eryngium here, or sea holly, that has grown and kind of self-seeded itself really. My rhubarb patch is doing well. It's always really happy here. We have some green dwarf tree frogs that live in the rhubarb here, and I think they also really like the Aquilegia leaves. So I don't like to touch this garden too much just because I know that there's a really great frog population in here. But yeah, the rhubarb is doing really well. The lavender, it's time to come and give this a little bit of a trim and cut back just because it's finished. It's this kind of season of flowering and it will flower again. But yeah, it needs a little bit of some work. I've got a few spaces in this garden and some herbs. Like I've got a sage down there. I've got a little self-seeded parsley here, which is exciting because I really love parsley. So I'm just going to let things evolve here and see what happens, but I will probably fill up this and plant some flowers in here. And I obviously need to redo my fairy garden in there because it just didn't survive the winter. So we're going to, redo that. That's definitely a project for another day. I've got some pincushion flowers in this little box, and behind there I have cleared out this space. You would have seen in another garden with me video, I cleaned out all of this, and I'll probably plant some more tomatoes in here, I think. So moving on from that, we have the last little quadrant here in the garden, and this one has firstly another coastal rosemary. All of this area is filled with yarrow, and it's looking so beautiful at the moment. Next to that, we've got some feverfew, which has started blooming, and I am so happy to have feverfew back in my life because it's one of my favourite fillers to use in arrangements. Next to that, we've got some leeks, and these are definitely ready to be pulled. I maybe might pull them this afternoon or sometime this week. You can see they are looking nice and ready, and they're actually going to seed and going to flower. So I really need to get on to picking these because they're definitely ready to go. Behind those we have a little bit of a mess, but this is where I planted some cucumbers, and I can see which ones they are. But I did lay down homemade compost here, you would have seen in another video. And alongside that, you know what happens, you get seeds germinating and things are everywhere. So I do have some cucumbers planted in here, which I'll trellis up these stakes and put some string in between them. But then I also have lots of other things. And I think a lot of these are probably pumpkins, tomatoes, maybe some zucchinis, probably pumpkins though, and lots of calendula throughout. So it's kind of fun to see what comes up. And if I need more tomato seedlings or pumpkin seedlings, I can just come here and transplant some of them. But before they get too big, I probably will take most of these out. And then next to that, we have the last rose, which is called Grace. This is a David Austin rose again, and this is probably my favorite one. The flowers are absolutely stunning, and I just really enjoy looking at this rose from my office and just seeing its beautiful blooms. It has definitely brought me so much joy. And then I have a little patch here of dwarf sunflowers that I've planted, as well as some sunflowers over in that little area next to the silver beet. I need to come and actually cardboard this pathway and put some mulch on it because the grass is getting a bit out of hand. But yeah, I do have a few more sunflowers here. I've got some evening sunflowers, which are a bit taller, some dwarf sunflowers, and some more silver beet. Right, so that is pretty much everything that is planted in here. I obviously didn't go into detail of every single plant, but if you did see one that I didn't mention, please do let me know, and I'll let you know what it is. I'm going to grab my coffee now, and we're going to walk down the back behind that shed behind us, and I'll share with you what I have planted down in the flower farm area. I'm actually really enjoying this cool and rainy weather. I know a lot of people don't like the rain, but for a flower farmer and gardener, I mean, we definitely need it. It's something that is a necessity and has really taken the pressure off having to water and just worry about the plants. I've really enjoyed having a little break from that. So I'm going to pop my coffee down and I'll turn you around to show you what I have planted in these garden beds. So just to get your bearings, that's the cottage garden up there. That's the shed that you see in the background. In front of that shed, I have some straw flowers planted, which I've already done a harvest of these, and they're sending up their second shoots now. But next to them and behind the shed, we have 2 rows of dahlias that I've planted. And I have a few more dahlias behind these trees in the flower farm, but I wanted to plant these 2 rows because it's a nice kind of like protected area, gets a little bit of afternoon shade, which they prefer. So yeah, I've got one bed here, and this is actually all of my seed dahlias that I've planted. So these are dahlias that I've planted from seed. You can see they're quite small. There's also going to be probably a few of these. These are zinnias that are self-seeding themselves, because this used to be my zinnia patch last year. But yeah, if you're not too sure about dahlias, you can plant them from seed, but you are just not going to know what the flower is. It'll be a mix of genetics from whatever was pollinated at that time. Or you can start them from tubers, which I've also done and I'll show you. And that way that you can get the true flower that you purchase the tuber of. And it's a better way to save flowers to ensure that you do get a flower that you want. Now with these, I do have a little bit of materials, I'll say, on top of all of these garden beds. That's because we have a resident bandicoot that will dig up absolutely everything and anything in the garden. So I do need a little bit of protection on my garden beds, hence why I have some nets and some plant crates and some leftover fencing to do whatever I have to do. It doesn't look aesthetic, but my main goal here isn't really aesthetics for the flower farm, it is to run a profitable business. So this side I have more of the tubers planted. I can actually see some of them are peeking up outside the trays now, so I'll have to come and take some of these off. But I have quite a few dahlias planted in here and I do have them labelled, but I don't really want to go rummaging through all of the trays and the netting right now. But I do have a lot of maroon colours as well as peachy pinks and lighter pastel colours. That's what I prefer. So you can see in there, the camera closer, that they're actually all sprouting up above the soil now, which is really exciting to see, and these are going to grow really quickly. That's another reason why I really loved having this rain. It was because I just didn't have to worry about watering all of the tubers. All of my tubers were already pretty much growing. They had roots and green shoots because I was taking quite a few cuttings. But sometimes too much rain can actually be bad when you plant tubers because they can tend to, or there's a risk, more of a risk that they can rot in the ground. So it's a good reminder, just if you are in a little bit more of a wet environment or you do get a lot of rain, to look for the more dry days when you're planting tubers, unless they are almost fully formed plants and have roots and green growth, which a lot of mine did, just to ensure that you keep your tubers nice and healthy. Right, so moving on from the dahlia beds, we are going to walk behind these trees here to the flower farm. This is usually the path I take. This is a big native garden bed here that I'm probably not going to go through all of this, but in another video I can do an update of that. It is looking a little weedy, but also things are growing so well in there. But I'll turn you around, and this here is the flower farm that I'm currently running. This is where I spend most of my time in the garden and is just one of my favorite places to be, really. Now, like all of my videos, I like to be completely transparent. I have not done some weeding in here for a while. There's a lot of weeds, there's a lot of overgrown pathways. That is exactly what you're going to get in an organic flower farm, particularly if you're not doing it full time, and I have not been doing this full time, definitely. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in here, but I thought I would just document it for what it looks like right now before I do get in there and get all of the jobs done, just to show you realistically what a flower farm is looking like right now. This is the view from the top of the flower farm. Yeah, there's a lot of overgrownness in here, but we'll start with the first row. This is where I have some more of my pincushion flowers, or scabiosa. I just love how fluffy and beautiful these are. They look so stunning in arrangements. Unfortunately, these flowers are a little bit old, but I can see there's a lot of new growth popping up. And lots of flowers to come with all of these. I did plant a mix in here, but I'm seeming to only get white come up, so not too sure about that. But below those I have some weeds, some grass, my spinach patch. We've been picking so much spinach, but it is bolting now and going to seed, which is actually fine because in its place there's actually some tomatoes that have self-sown, and these are my favorites. These are Roma tomatoes, so we've got one plant there and then another one here. And I did see some larger fruit in here the other day. Like, it's fairly decent size, the fruit. So yeah, I'm really excited to have fresh tomatoes again. And then we have some more self-sown cosmos, another tomato plant, and some bush beans, which are finally starting to take off. They took their time, but yeah, finally starting to get some of those. But behind there, you can see I'm not even going to bother to walk in this pathway. This is my cosmos patch, and I didn't plant a single cosmos. I didn't plant a single one. These have all self-sown from the patch I had before, and I've been picking on them, but I've just realized that I really don't love this type of cosmos. I do have some other seeds that I'm going to plant that are a little bit more specialty variety, but there's a few of the plants that I like. Like, I like these darker ones that are just a little bit different. These are really pretty. And I mean, I do like the classic pink, but I just know how beautiful cosmos can be. And I know these are beautiful, but there's some prettier ones in the world that I want to grow. So I'm going to come through and probably just do a really harsh cut on all of these. But for now, I'm loving how this patch is just providing such an ecosystem service to the bees, for pollinators, for birds, for wildlife. I can just see the bees around right now. Their pollen sacs are so full. So it's bringing me a lot of joy in that area. But I'm going to try and step over some of these weeds and into the actual designated pathway now. Under here, I have a succession of sunflowers planted, and again, I've just got the netting up for the bandicoot, but you can see they're all growing pretty well in there, and I might have to do some thinning, but yeah, I'm very happy with these. These are Radiance sunflowers, I think, and then I have a few more scabiosas planted down here, which are a burgundy colour. All right, we're moving on to the next row now, and these two rows really are the before. Okay, let's just accept they're the before. Right now, I am in the process of taking out a lot of these status. You can see my pile here of said status, and rearranging these garden beds, but I'll show you what I do have. So firstly, I have some status here. This has honestly been one of the most profitable crops I have grown, and I've really been enjoying it. So I've got quite a lot in there. I do have some sea holly. It's actually starting to flower, and this was all self-seeded. It just completely self-seeded itself all throughout here. So if you do grow eryngium or sea holly, just know that this is what happens. But I have been digging up a lot of these and propagating them and selling them at the markets. They sell really well. So that's an idea. If you don't want all your sea hollies, you can sell them at your local market. So I've got the apricot, and then we've got the purple status, which is all coming out again. I'll include some overlays of what they actually look like when the flowers are open, because they are seriously stunning, and yeah, I've just made so much money on them. Down the back here, again, I'm not going to bother to go too much in there. This is all going to come out. I'm just going to say that now. It's all going to come out. All the cornflowers back there, they're gone. And I have heaps of status also planted in here that has just been surrounded by buckwheat. And I had buckwheat as a green manure quite a few months ago. Obviously didn't harvest it at the right time because it went to seed, and now this has happened. So I need to come through, remove all the buckwheat so that the status can grow up. So this is this week's job. You might see it on a garden with me video coming up. I've got so much to do in here. You can see my sprinkler is just, yeah, immersed in the grass and the chaos in this area. So there should be a pathway that goes down here. There will be eventually again, and there should be another pathway that goes down there. And all of this is pretty much going to be sunflower successions in here. So that's the plan for these beds. This garden bed here, I have been removing the status, as you can see, and this is probably, I think, going to be zinnias or another sowing of status. I'm not too sure yet, but yeah, we'll see how much space I have down the back for where I did plan to have zinnias originally. So that was that row there. This row, I have all of my straw flowers, and I've been harvesting buckets and buckets of these and drying them for Christmas arrangements. You can see, this is a good example. Usually with straw flower, they'll send out one single stem. You can cut it back really low, like I have here. That's where I cut it. And then you can see all of these side shoots that are coming up. These are all going to have flowers on them. So you get so many more flowers if you do give your plant a really nice good cut back to ensure that it has new growth. These stems are also a little bit more usable than the single middle stem, which can be really thick, doesn't dry very well, and is just really bulky to use. So I actually prefer these side shoots, which is why I gave them all a really good cut back. So I should have hundreds of straw flowers from this bed soon. I've got some snapdragons planted in here. These are all pink and white snapdragons here. And then I have my Costa varieties and more specialty apple blossom and other varieties down here. One thing that I'm really dealing with at the moment is caterpillars. Specifically, I think they're called budworms. I recently bought some Dipel, which is an organic solution to caterpillar control that I'm going to trial on these. If you've had any luck with it, let me know. But just for instance, I'll find one that has been really damaged. So you can see this one. You can see those little holes in the flower, and I can actually see a really large caterpillar in there, but they really just decimate the flowers. Obviously, I'm not going to sell a flower that looks like this, and they really, they eat the flowers from the inside, and obviously it's just not very aesthetic or pretty, so I'm not going to be selling those. And luckily I do have a lot more that are getting their second flush. So what I'm going to do is any that are flowering right now, like this one, you can see Mr. Caterpillar there. I'm going to come through, give it a spray, mix the Dipel in with some water, and after I've cut all of the flowers off with the caterpillars on them, give it a spray, give it a feed, and see how I go with them. Obviously, using any kind of a spray I don't enjoy. I don't enjoy using anything on the garden. I prefer it to have nothing on it, but I've had to really just challenge my belief structure, I feel, with running a flower farm, in that this is not just me, this is a business and has to run and be functioning by itself. And that means that I do have to add amendments and use different sprays that are all organic. Mind you, I'm never going to use anything synthetic at all, and really be mindful about when I use it, just to minimize any damage that it may have on any other bugs and wildlife in the area. So I'll keep you updated on how these go, but if you have ever used Dipel, please do let me know on your experience on it. Behind those, I do have another succession of snapdragons and some leftover stock flower. That's just looking pretty. And a self-seeded cornflower, which I might let this one be. I'll keep this one and get rid of these. It's been really fun to grow blue cornflowers because the bowerbirds, the satin bowerbirds, really enjoy picking off the flowers and taking them to their bower, which is actually, there's a few that live in this little area down here. So it's really fun to watch them play around with the flowers. They can have some, I don't need them all. But yeah, I enjoy all of the interactions that I have with wildlife around here. Except sometimes the bandicoot, even though it's the cutest thing on the planet, but hence why I have protection for the bandicoot. In these two tunnels, I have all of these are filled with dahlia tubers, that some of which are sprouting up, but it'll be a little bit difficult to see. There's a little hole there, you can kind of have a peek through. You can see one sprouting there. So I'll probably lift these up when I can see all the green and the plants are growing nice and healthy. Got a little bit of space down this end to plant some more, or plant some of the seedlings as well. So that's those two, and then this bed here I have some Sweet William that I planted. I probably planted it a little bit late, but I can see that it is actually starting to flower now, sending up some flower spikes, so that's good. And this is a perennial crop, so it'll last a few years hopefully. Also got some raspberries that are growing along this trellis here, and then behind them, sorry about the wind if that's picking up, but I have some feverfew down here. So I have two beds of feverfew, one of which is starting to flower, or starting to send its stems up to flower, I should say, which is nice. It's looking really, really healthy. I honestly didn't amend this soil too much at all. I think I added some worm castings in and some sugarcane mulch, but I'm really happy with how feverfew grows here. And then the other day I planted another bed down here, so there are like 3 rows of feverfew in this bed, if that makes sense, and they are really, really tiny at the moment. You can see that's the size of the plants at the moment, and all of these I didn't start from seed. All of these seedlings I took cuttings of these from existing feverfew plants, and I've got that on a video somewhere on how to do that, but I just preferred this method so much more. It was so much easier to get plants established, and now I have just so many more feverfew, which is going to be great. So that's where that patch of feverfew is, and then I have some black plastic here that's got an eye going to be lifting in. Hopefully this week we'll get to this job, and I'm going to be broad forking and amending this soil, and this is going to be my zinnia patch. So I'm hopefully going to have 3 large rows of zinnias here, and hopefully some more zinnias up with the other flowers too, but zinnias are going to be one of my main crops for summer, and I really need to get them in the ground now because I'm a little bit behind on that. It's been really difficult to manage my time, but I'm slowly learning and slowly getting there. So behind that, I just have a few plants and trees planted around here. I'm starting to just get a little bit of a food forest going, some of which are doing really well. I mean, obviously we have our pear tree, which always looks beautiful, and probably my favorite trees in here that I have right now are the bleeding hearts, which are these ones. These are a native homolanthus plant. They're a pioneer species, so they grow up really fast. They have a beautiful canopy, and then they only last for about like 10-15 years or so, maybe not even that, but they are going to look super stunning. And below them I've actually planted some rhubarb to have like an understory of rhubarb. I've got one plant there, one over there. I do need to fill out this bed, and I can just see even after like a day or two of rain, the grass has just gone crazy here, but that won't be too hard to get under control. And once these do start to branch out and have a bit more of a canopy, we won't have as much of a problem with grass underneath them. I was about to do the outro to this video, and then I realized I had one more bed that I didn't show you. That I have all of my larkspur here that is flowering and looking beautiful. This has been so stunning in arrangements, and I'm gonna have to come down and get some more clips on a sunny day just to show you what they actually look like, because they're a little bit flopped over right now. But if you're after like a whimsical, soft, flowy, but also spike in your arrangements, absolutely grow larkspur. These are all of the imperial mix, I think, and I think it was, I'll have to put the name of the one on the screen, the purple ones. I think it might be Miracle Blue, but yeah, these are my favorites, and I've loved having this little patch here. The light lavender purple are definitely my favorite, as well as the deep purple too. So thank you so much for watching this garden tour. I hope you enjoyed seeing what the garden and flower farm are looking like at the start of November. And I hope that the sound was okay. I'm still getting used to this new microphone, but I know I was kind of taking you around with the camera with this video, but it is going to allow me to have the camera stationary when I'm doing jobs and can actually talk through, because it is a wireless mic, and it's just going to make filming so much easier, particularly because I live in a suburb and there's always things going on here. So there's always background noise and hopefully this is going to make the noise situation a little bit better. If you would like to see more videos, you can head over to my Patreon, where I share extra flower farming content and just extra videos in general. I share a little bit more about my life and just what Scott and I get up to. So I'll leave the link to that in the description box as well. You can also buy me a coffee to help me get through these garden videos and also all the garden jobs. I'll leave my Ko-Fi link down in the description as well, where you can just tip me and buy me a coffee. I truly appreciate everyone who has supported me over there. It honestly makes my week whenever one of you buys me a coffee. And yeah, I'm always thinking about you when I do go out and buy myself a coffee. You can also find me over on Instagram, and I'm starting to do some TikToks as well, so you can follow me over there. I'm really trying to learn over there and do a little bit more meaningful short form content, or content that can kind of relax your nervous system. So I do a little bit more ASMR rain sounds over there, and just general garden sounds over on TikTok. But thank you so much for watching this video. I'm gonna go find my coffee wherever I put it in the garden for this garden tour. But I would love to know what you're getting up to in the garden. Let me know what you're harvesting, what you're growing, what you're looking forward to. Let's start a little conversation in the comments, and we can all check in with each other to see what we're getting up to in the garden. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are in the world. And until my next one, happy gardening, everyone. Bye.